Kansas City area Section 8 tenant fears losing her housing voucher due to federal cuts, but she is willing to do anything to make sure that she keeps her voucher, except keep a job. I'm Tony, and this is Real Estate Investing and Landlord News. All right, so I have quite the interesting article for you today, and it's coming out of my hometown of Kansas City. Well, specifically, it's coming out of Johnson County, Kansas, which is a suburb of Kansas City, but it has to do with the Section 8 program and the cuts, and one of the people who is affected by it is featured in this article. And this tenant, she is a stereotypical welfare queen, in my personal opinion, okay? Dependent upon the government, unwilling to do what it actually takes to make sure that she's housed, and probably suffering from other issues that are not covered in the article, okay? A lot of these articles are misleading. They are very misleading. They leave out key details that are very important in helping us make a decision on this topic. Now, the reason they do that is because they want the socialist program. They want the expansion, not the contraction of this program. They want more people on government benefits. And I'm opposed to that. I'm 100% opposed to that. Now, somebody commented in the comment section that I do a lot of speculation in my videos, right? I'm guessing, stuff. I'm, not going off of facts. Well, I'm forced to, okay? And the reason I'm forced to is because they leave out too many details. So I always assume the worst. Okay, I assume that the reason they left out the details is because the situation wouldn't look so sympathetic if they put all those details back in there. But before I get into the article, go ahead, hit the like, subscribe button, maybe leave a comment down below. Let me know what you think. So, do you believe that these articles, a lot of these articles, especially the ones that are pushing for a certain, pro-tenant, anti-landlord narrative, are leaving out a lot of these details, okay? I do, okay? I think that we are considered the bad guy, and they will do anything in order to get public opinion on their side and to prove that, we need these socialist programs. We need to force landlords to keep their rents low. I think they're willing to do anything, including lie and to stretch the truth, okay? But anyway, what do you think? Put a comment in the comment section down below. Let me get into this article. This article is coming from the Kansas City Star, and it says, Johnson County rental help got her off the streets. Now the program faces uncertainty. I think they meant helped get her off the streets, but whatever. Let's see what the article says. After a bank seized her family's home in the Kansas City metro area during the 2008 recession, Jessica Eckord ended up living on the streets in Wyandotte County, my hometown. She lived under the James Street Bridge, in parks, and sometimes in abandoned houses, she said. She occasionally went to temporary shelters, but after someone attempted to suffocate her with a pillow and stole her belongings, she felt safer on the streets. During that time she lived unhoused, she applied for Section 8 housing, a federal housing and urban development voucher program that helps low-income individuals afford housing options in their communities. However, there's often long waiting lists to get one of the few vouchers available. Eckord waited for 3 years. After living in subsidized housing in KCK, Kansas City, Kansas, for several years, she moved to Johnson County, where she encountered new challenges trying to find her new home. So let's look at what I just read right there, okay? So, they say, what? After she lost her home, she ended up on the streets, and she had to stay on the streets for 3 years while she waited for her name to get through the list. Now, I've mentioned before what I think of these Section 8 waiting lists, okay? I think that the waiting list for the grand majority of the people on them is a joke. And I still believe that, even reading this article, knowing that this lady lived on the streets. And why do I say that? Because most cases, living on the streets is a choice, okay? Especially when we're talking about, we're not talking about somebody who, hey, I had to live in my car for a few months until I was able to find somewhere to live, and I was working a full-time job and I had to save up a little bit of money for a deposit. No, we're not talking about that, okay? We're talking about somebody who apparently willfully chose to stay on the streets. You know, we have homeless shelters, we have all these resources available for people who are unhoused, as they say, homeless, as I say, right? And yet she still lived on the streets for 3 years. So my personal opinion is she chose to live there. And why did she choose to live there? Well, we all know that the majority of the people who are living under bridges, living on the streets like that, they suffer from substance abuse issues and mental health problems. No mention of that in this article, of course, but we have to make that assumption that she was living on the streets because she either suffers from substance abuse or mental health issues or both, okay? So really, this isn't an issue of she couldn't find a place to live, or she had to live under this bridge while she was waiting for a voucher. That's the misleading nature of this article. This is an issue of she was suffering from other problems that led her to living on the street, and they gave her a voucher. So, this is not the kind of thing that I like to see, okay? This doesn't garner sympathy from me. Okay, when you're talking about, hey, we gave a voucher to this drug-addicted crazy person over here. Okay, so my tax dollars are paying to house drug-addicted crazy people. Now, I'm not saying that people with drug addictions don't need help. What I am saying is, hey, let's focus our attention on what they like the elderly and the disabled, okay? That's what we're supposed to be doing. And when they put proposals out there that say that able-bodied people have to be off of this after 2 years, well, you see where the dilemma is, right? And apparently this lady in this article has been on this for a lot longer than 2 years. But let me continue. She isn't alone in the wait and hunt for housing assistance. Last year, Johnson County saw historic levels of demand for housing assistance. As the cost of living continues to rise in the area, Johnson County housing officials now worry about how they will get residents off Section 8's waiting list and into housing as the federal government pauses any funding increases. Our costs are going up, our funding is leveled, could be cut, and we have higher expenses than we've ever had, said Heather McNeve, the director of Johnson County Housing Services. While Eckerd and got her voucher and still qualifies for assistance, she still worries that she could lose it all again. My biggest fear is being homeless again, and I refuse to be homeless again. See, she refuses to be homeless again. Well, I have a solution for you, ma'am, okay? And it's called working. You have to go work, get a job, any job, right? Now, Johnson County, it's one of the wealthier counties in the state of Kansas, if not the wealthiest, okay? And housing costs might be expensive there. But I guarantee with a pretty basic full-time job, you could afford to live, maybe not in the best accommodations, maybe not in the best neighborhood. It might be a little rougher spot. It might be an older home. You might only be able to rent a room, but you will not be homeless again, period, okay? But there's no mention of you wanting to work. No, we have to make sure the government keeps paying for your housing. Okay, so I have to make assumptions here, but we'll have to assume she's able-bodied, but she might not be all there up here, okay? And that is the real reason why she's unable to pay for her own housing. That's the reason why she's got this housing voucher and why she was homeless for so many years. So, what is the solution to this? Well, those people like the director of this housing authority and those people who are, less conservative than myself, right? Who think that there needs to be more funding for these programs so that these people don't fall in the cracks. Well, you have to be willing to tax yourselves, okay? That's all. That's it. The funding, right? You can replace the funding from the government by saying, okay, here on a county or a city level, we're going to tax ourselves so that we can pay for more vouchers for the people who need it. That's what you have to be willing to do. If you're not willing to do that, you're full of crap, Okay, you're just expecting to get free dollars from somewhere else. If you truly believe that this is a worthy cause, you should be willing to tax yourself in order to pay for it. And if you're not, well, then we know what your true opinion is of the whole program. But what do you think? Go ahead and put a comment in the comments section down below.